With the Raptors now winning these games, has the outlook on the rest of the season changed for this team? And if it did change, is it for the worse or is it for the better? We had the 2 wins in the week leading up to this. The Brooklyn Nets win and the Atlanta Hawks win. Impressive wins, of course. But, having that fire back in the team, I agree. Good to see a little heart. Now they've got a really good shot at winning 3 games in a row. You're watching this back. We'll see if they've won the 3 games in a row as the Raptors take on the Indiana Pacers on Monday. It's a winnable game. I expect the Raptors to be somewhat of underdogs, but they were 7.5-point underdogs against the Atlanta Hawks. At Indiana, obviously, it depends on who's available. I have to feel as though Indiana will be difficult to say here. I didn't expect them to be 7.5-point underdogs against the Hawks, but perhaps 5-6-point underdogs against the Indiana Pacers, whatever it may be. It's still a winnable game. The Raptors have had a tendency of playing well against teams that lack rim protection, as they did in the game right before the All-Star break when they had a close game. They nearly won against the Pacers. They ended up losing 127-125, but a good shot at winning 3 games in a row and getting the pizza party, aka the chicken pizza party, which we'll be doing on the main channel if the Raptors do get 3 wins in a row at all this season. But the fact that they're even in a position to win 3 games in a row is quite surprising to me. Post All-Star break, the Raptors, I think it's 27 games remaining on the season. Their win total projection for the season at that point was around 29.5. I had the full expectation that they were going to go under that mark, and they can still go under that mark, but 2 wins out the gate, 2 wins that were a little bit impressive. I didn't think they should have been 1.5-point favorites against the Nets. I guess they were at home, so it makes sense, but very surprising to see this team turn around on the second night of a back-to-back, go away from home, and beat that Atlanta Hawks team. And there is, I guess, somewhat of a winning period of the schedule on the way. Like, there's some tough teams in there, but it's not a nightmare run of games here for the Raptors over the next 12. Pacers, then Mavericks, Warriors, Hornets, Pelicans at home, away from home to play the Suns, Blazers, Nuggets, and Pistons, and back at home to play the Magic. Like, there's winnable games all over this stretch here for the Raptors. And if they can maintain this sort of demeanor with their play as they showed in the Nets and Hawks game, I think they're going to actually get to those 30 wins on the season. I don't want to jump too far to conclusions here. After all, it's the Nets. They're not good. They're very slightly better than us. The Hawks are also not good this season. So we kind of have to take these games for what it is. We may have a humbling game coming up. I mean, that Pelicans game, we saw the last time we played them. We may have some humbling games on the way, but just the fact that Darko was able, over the All-Star break, to get these guys amped up to play again, I think is impressive. And Scotty Barnes has absolutely returned from the All-Star break with a different demeanor, different level of play, different level of engagement, which is awesome to see. The only question mark will be about the consistency here. Can they maintain these sorts of levels? After these 2 wins, the Raptors have boosted their regular season win projection now to 30.5. Just looking at basic sportsbook odds here, juice to the over. So we'll say projected nearly 31 wins at this point. So that's a touch surprising to me to see the Raptors come out with that sort of fire and play. Overall, for the players in terms of development, I said in the All-Star break that the most important thing to get out of the rest of the season is player development. In order to do that, you do need to actually come better prepared for games. The Raptors have come out, played, and started very well against the Nets and the Hawks. Yeah, it tapers off as the game goes on, but how many games have we seen them start poorly? They start like crap, they start like shit, and then have to try and recover for the rest of the game. Well, now we're putting ourselves in these positive positions out the gate, which is making the rest of the game a whole lot easier to figure out for the Raptors. In-game adjustments hasn't been their forte this season, so starting well is absolutely key. And look, we're talking about the success of these 2 games. Like I said, 2 not-so-good teams as far as the NBA is concerned. The Nets are in 11th. They are half a game up on the Raptors, and the Hawks are in 10th. That final playing position, they are 3.5 games up on the Raptors at this point. 3.5 doesn't seem completely unattainable at this point with this new level of demeanor, but the Raptors could get completely humbled on Monday against the Pacers. We'll see what happens as that one goes on. But Is this sort of play positive? Is this good for the Raptors? Over the All-Star break, as I said, I spoke about the keys to the season. I did so on the Bleacher Report app. Main thing was player development. In order to help with player development, you need to come into games better equipped and just perform better. You can't have these disaster 38-point losses to the Pelicans where you get absolutely nothing out of the game. However, that being said, for me, the third key to the season was taking a look at the draft as well and trying to get yourself in a position to keep that top 6 pick. Raptors obviously sent out that top 6 pick to the San Antonio Spurs at the 2023 trade deadline. Currently, the Raptors' 7th worst record in the NBA. 1 full game up on the Memphis Grizzlies for that 6th spot, and now 5 games up on the Portland Trailblazers for that 5th spot, who have lost 7 in a row. So if you guys don't know the percentages associated with the draft pick here, if the Raptors have the 7th worst record, they have a 31% chance of landing in the top 6 in the lottery and therefore keeping their pick. If they are the 6th worst team, they have a 45% chance of doing so. And as the 5th worst team, they have a 63, I believe it is, percent chance to do so. Right around 61, 62, 63%. Regardless, yeah, some significant gaps there. And even if you're a bottom 5 team, there's still a good percentage there that you don't hang on to that pick and you still lose that pick. So, a 37% chance even then that you don't keep the pick make things obviously difficult, but I think this should be a little bit of a focus at some point. So my wonder for the rest of the season with the wins and losses here is going to be, I think they figured out a rotation they like, a 9-man rotation. Grady Dick is certainly providing some excellent minutes off the bench now. Kelly Olynyk is like a really good piece that the team was missing. I mean, a backup big, first of all, but one who can space the floor and pass out of the high post so well. A welcome sight to see. Abaji hopefully hitting stride. He had a really nice game against the Atlanta Hawks the other day. And also from, who's the other guy? Why am I blanking? Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is also up and down, but a solid player to have. Like the 9-man unit is much deeper than it was before. Having a guy like Jordan Nwora who can step in as well, Chris Boucher who can step in. It's not a very good roster, but there's certainly no dead wood anymore, I'd say. There's nobody playing in these games. I'm like, why do I have to watch Malachi Flynn minutes? Why do I have to watch Precious Achiuwa minutes? Why do I have to watch Jalen McDaniels minutes? Like, just absolute dead wood for the team. Now there's 9 guys you can actually trust on a night-to-night basis. Makes the games a whole lot more interesting. I'm not a fan of the 4+1 lineups that we've been running, 4 bench players plus Scotty Barnes. But they've done well, actually, in these 2 games for the Raptors. To be fair, I don't know how much that will sustain itself. But, yeah, there might be some wins on the way for the Raptors. So it's tough to juggle, as I said, the 3 keys: development, playing better, and also losing games. But that recent one against the Hawks, R.J. Barrett, could he have played the second night of a back-to-back? I mean, he had a full week and a half off rest for the All-Star break. Then they come back with a back-to-back, can't play. I lean on the side of that being an actual injury and not a tanking thing, but do we see more of that as the season goes on? If you have an opportunity to rest a guy, put your team in a slightly worse position, perhaps. And I think it's something that they definitely should consider. So as far as wins to go the rest of the way, I think right around 30 is where they'll end up still. I don't see this team kicking on and making the play-in tournament. I imagine at some point they look at the draft and say, let's give ourselves the opportunity of using a top 6 pick this season. I don't know if it's going to be the full-out job it was in the Tampa season, but I expect to see some sort of look towards that. But positives and takeaways, the games are a lot more watchable when the team gives a shit. And they very much did in the last 2 games. And credit to the coaching staff for getting the team fired up for these recent games. And you can see when they win these games, they're pumped up. Scotty Barnes fist pumping. There's the guys on the bench all on their feet for the late game situations. Everyone is a lot more engaged. As much as it might hurt the draft odds, that's only going to help this team going forward. I'm personally liking what I'm seeing out of the All-Star break, and hopefully more of these are to come for the team. And hey, maybe they win 3 games in a row along the way.